the door.
The door is open.
Okay, come here.
Give me my.
Just come here, bro. You're making this way harder than it has to
No,
be.
y'all, man.
No.
I'm naked, bro.
Okay, bro. You have clothes on. Come on.
Like y'all making it like I'm doing, like I'm being resistant or something. I was literally naked.
Okay,
bro.
okay. Can you put a shirt on and just come here?
Sure, no problem.
Today we're looking at a hotel call that starts with a simple complaint about loud TV and crying and turns into a domestic violence investigation, a bruise nobody can explain, a partner trying to protect the other, and a guy going to jail for something he thought he could outrun. This isn't a movie scene. It's exactly the kind of situation police walk into every day. A couple behind a closed door, a scared woman, a defensive man, a worried hotel worker, and a witness who says, "I saw him hit her." And before we go deeper into this one, if you like real breakdowns of police encounters, domestic calls, and how these situations actually play out, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps a lot, and it means you'll see more of these stories where we slow things down and really look at what's happening, not just the headlines. Now let's get into it. The whole thing starts at a hotel, not a home. A staff member sees a couple outside. The woman is crying and looks terrified. A guest tells the front desk he saw the man hit her. The staff member watches as the man keeps trying to get her back into their room. It takes them about half an hour to make it there because she clearly does not want to go. She keeps hanging back, scared, and he keeps pushing for her to come with him. Eventually, they disappear into the room. The TV gets turned up loud, and through the door, the staff says they can still hear her crying. From the hotel's point of view, this is now a safety issue. They have a young couple, early 20s or 30s, staying with them. He's tall, in a white and blue hoodie with the hood up. She's heavier set, in tight shorts and a crop top. There's a report he hit her. She looks terrified. She didn't want to go into that room. Now the TV is blasted, and she's still audibly upset. So they do what they have to do. They call the police. When the officers arrive, the staff member meets them and explains what they've seen and what they were told. Another guest claims he directly saw the man hit the woman. The staff didn't see the hit themselves, but they saw the aftermath, the crying, the fear, and the way she resisted going back into the room. The officers get a room number and head up. When they knock on the door, the man makes things difficult right away. He doesn't just step out and talk. He's talking through the door, stalling, saying he's naked. The officers tell him they need him to come outside. They offer alternatives: put a shirt on, step out, or have her come out if he's not dressed. He keeps pushing back, acting like they're overreacting or making him out to be resistant. Eventually he says, fine, he'll put something on and talk. One of the first red flags for officers in these situations is someone trying to control the scene, not opening the door fully, trying to keep everyone inside the room, or insisting they can talk with the door just cracked. The officers want distance and separation. They don't want the couple together, influencing each other's story. That's why they immediately push to split them up. They ask her to step out so they can talk to her one-on-one, away from him. When they finally get her separated, she's emotional, but she starts playing the situation down. This is a classic dynamic in domestic cases. She tells them it was just a disagreement. They were arguing. Nothing physical, no hands, no assault. Just a fight. What were they arguing about? She says she went through his phone, caught him cheating, and he didn't like that. They argued outside, but according to her, he never hit her. The officers test that story. They push on it from different angles. She explains they're not from the area. They're in the middle of a long trip. Her birthday was this month. They were in Miami. Now they're on their way back to Memphis, breaking up the travel by bus and flights. They overslept, missed a flight, had to hop on a Greyhound, and ended up stopping here on the way back. In other words, they're stressed, tired, on the road, and dealing with relationship drama on top of it. She says they were in the room when she checked his phone and saw something she didn't like. She got mad and walked outside because she needed fresh air. He followed her out because, as she explains it, they don't know this area, they're not from here, and he didn't want her wandering around outside upset and alone. In her words, he was trying to calm her down and get her to come back into the room so they could argue in private instead of out on the street. When the officers ask if he forced her, grabbed her, or put his hands on her, she insists he didn't. She says she just didn't want to talk and wanted to be separated when she was angry. She tells them they've been together 12 years. They live together back home. No kids, just them. To someone listening, it sounds like she's protecting him. There's a bruise on her face that needs explaining. There's a witness who says he saw her get hit, and yet she's standing there saying, "No, he didn't put his hands on me. We were just arguing." Meanwhile, the officers also know they can't just ignore a third-party witness and a visible bruise, so they go back to talk to the man. Before they do that, they read him his rights. That alone tells you that, in their minds, this has gone beyond a just-in-case check-in and into an actual criminal investigation. They tell him he's being detained, not formally arrested yet, but under investigation. He goes back and forth, asking if he's being arrested, if he's being detained, saying he knows his rights, identifying himself as a criminal, like he's been through this before. Eventually he agrees to talk. His version, at least on the surface, lines up partially with hers. They had a misunderstanding in the parking lot, a verbal confrontation, no physical contact. He insists he never put his hands on her, that it was just an argument. The officers immediately push on the obvious contradiction. If nothing physical happened, why does she have a visible bruise on her cheek? He says he doesn't know anything about a bruise. He claims he didn't even realize she had one. They ask again if she didn't have a bruise before, and now she does. Where did it come from? His answers get evasive. He starts talking about a guy in a blue car who, in his opinion, was checking her out, implying that the witness might just be some random dude attracted to his girlfriend, watching them argue and misreading the situation. He leans into the idea that everybody's overreacting to a simple argument between a couple that's been together for 11 years. The more he talks, the more he tries to pull the conversation away from the bruise and the witness and toward bigger ideas. Real criminals, people out there robbing and killing, and how he and his girl are just having a misunderstanding. He keeps asking if he's going to jail, complaining that the police are focused on him instead of real crime. He's emotional, defensive, and increasingly less cooperative. At some point during all of this, the officers run his name and find out he has a warrant. It's not for murder or some big headline crime. It's for driving with a suspended license, a DWLS warrant. But a warrant is a warrant. Now, even if the domestic situation is murky, they have a separate, clean legal reason to take him into custody. When they finally tell him he has to go to jail on the warrant, everything escalates. Up until then, he's been edgy, but mostly physically compliant. Once he hears he's actually going to jail, he switches gears. He starts questioning everything, worrying about his money, his suitcase, what's going to happen to his stuff. He wants to negotiate. He wants guarantees. He talks about how unfair it is that over a simple argument he's now going to jail when real criminals are out there. The officers tell him very clearly, they're not interested in stacking charges if they don't have to. They just need him to cooperate. If he goes peacefully, he faces the warrant, and that's it. But if he resists, he's going to catch extra charges. He keeps pushing back, emotionally and physically. It turns into a struggle. They take him down, get him handcuffed, and in that chaotic moment, He starts saying he can't breathe, that his wrist is broken, that his leg is hurt. You can hear the frustration from both sides. Officers trying to control the situation and keep it from getting worse. Him feeling overwhelmed, scared, and angry that something he sees as minor has turned into him being face down, cuffed, and taken away. To their credit, the officers actually adjust the cuffs. They switch them out, double-lock them, and try to make them more comfortable. They do a quick damage control pass, check his arm, help him stand up, walk him out. He's still upset, but there's a clear moment where he goes from fighting the process to resigned, apologizing, asking them not to charge him with resisting, saying he's done talking and just wants it over with. On the other side of this, they go back and talk to his girlfriend. Again. They explain what's happening in plain terms. He's going to jail for the warrant, and because of how he behaved when they tried to take him into custody, he's also likely getting a resisting charge. They point out that if he'd gone calmly, he'd only be dealing with the warrant. His own decisions in those few minutes made it worse. They also explain what this means for her. She wants to know how long he'll be in. They talk about how warrants work, about the likely bond amounts, about the difference between an arrest warrant and a bench warrant. They estimate he'll have at least a $500 bond on the resisting alone, meaning she'd need about $50 to bond him out through a bondsman if she chooses to. She asks if she can give him her phone number. They assure her he already has it and that he can call her from jail. And then comes the part she probably doesn't want to hear. She is not allowed to bring him back to the hotel. If he comes back, he's not welcome. If he shows up anyway, they'll likely be back in the same position. Except next time, he'll be violating the hotel's trespass warning. What's interesting here is how familiar all of this is to the officers. You can hear it in their tone. They know the pattern. Couple fights, someone calls, one partner minimizes the violence, the other complains about real criminals. Everyone says they'll be back together in a few days. One of the officers even acknowledges it. After all this, they'll probably be back together. And if he goes to jail, she'll be the one coming up with the money to get him out. That's the cycle. From the outside, it's easy to say, well, if she says he didn't hit her, that's the end of it. But in reality, victims in long-term relationships often lie to protect their abusers, or at least to protect the relationship. Love, history, money, fear, and loyalty all blend into one messy package. She's been with him for over a decade. They're traveling across states together. They're not going to throw all that away in front of a couple of officers in a hotel hallway. At least not that night. At the same time, the bruises don't lie. The witness doesn't lie about what he saw. The hotel staff's instincts that something was wrong were right. The officers can't ignore that. They may or may not end up with a domestic battery charge that sticks, depending on evidence and cooperation. But that night, their main responsibility is to separate the two, ensure she's safe, and handle the warrant they uncovered. What we're really looking at here is how fragile that line is between just an argument and something potentially much more serious. The witness said he saw a hit. The bruise backs that up. Her fear when she didn't want to go back into the room backs that up. But by the time the police are there, she's telling a softer version of the story. He's denying everything, and the system has to make a call based on imperfect information. That's why third-party witnesses matter. That's why hotel staff being willing to step in and call 911 matters. And that's why officers push so hard to separate people, ask the same question 10 different ways, and circle back to basic facts like, if he never touched you, why do you have a bruise? There are no clean, happy endings here. He goes to jail. She's left at the hotel with her bags, her worry, and the decision of whether to bond him out. The bruise on her cheek will fade. The warrant will eventually be resolved. But the pattern underneath, The arguments, the jealousy, the controlling behavior, the denial, that doesn't disappear just because one night ends in a holding cell instead of a hospital. And that's the real takeaway. Behind every short clip of someone saying, "I can't breathe," or a guy arguing about real criminals, or a woman insisting, "He didn't hit me," there's always more context. A relationship history, a power dynamic, a scared hotel worker trying to do the right thing, a set of officers trying to balance empathy, procedure, and safety.